name is Harvey Moreno.
And I am Derrick Utz.
And this is our new podcast called Down the Rabbit Hole. And this is where we will talk about our adventure in publishing. We have set up a new company called WereRabbit Press. I actually had to think about it for a second because it still feels weird to say that we started a publishing company.
Yeah, it's that fresh.
Yeah. So we are recording our I think we're going to go with weekly sessions here.
Mm-hmm.
It's 11 p.m. on a Monday.
It's the average work time for most, entrepreneurs, I guess you could say.
Yeah, this is when we're most productive. We're usually on like 11 to 1 sometime in there. But don't worry, this call, while it may go for 2 hours, you probably want to get about 20 minutes of interesting stuff out of us. Or the other stuff might be more interesting, more entertaining, but may not be as informative in regards to what we're doing. And this podcast is designed to be an industry specific podcast. So while some of it will have discussion as into what we're doing, the projects that we're working on, a lot of it will also go into how we fumble our way into the industry. The hurdles that we have to overcome, the expensive mistakes, the why did we think we could actually do this conversations. Just two well-bearded dads trying to get their nerd on and live vicariously through people who have more time than we do.
Yeah, I think that probably ought to be a T-shirt, is two well-bearded dads. Yeah.
WereRabbit Press, two well-bearded dads.
See, now I got to change like the subtitle of the company. Maybe we shouldn't do that.
No. And only one of us is, I don't think in our friendship, we've been friends, 2 years now?
Oh, yeah, at least.
Yeah, about 2 years now. I don't think I've ever been the alpha beard in our relationship. Usually I walk into a room and bam, it's me. There's no doubt but I shaved it all off not too long ago. And
I didn't.
Yes. But give me a month and I'll catch up to you.
Well, okay. First of all, that would be quite a talent if you could do that. I mean, this fur baby's going on 5 years. And so,
let's have a contest. January 1st or December 31st. We'll just shave it all off.
I don't know about that part.
All off. And we'll see who has the most impressive beard at the end of the year.
I will draw myself without a beard. Does that count?
No, absolutely not. Anyway, so
I don't remember what I look like without a beard. So
I can show you a picture. I Googled you and I found one. Remember?
Oh, that's right. Okay, we're not gonna. We don't talk about that time.
Well, this is when you were in your bodybuilding phase, and you looked like Jason. Was it Jason David Frank, the Green Power Ranger? You look like Tommy. You look like Tommy.
Like Tommy. I do not have that suit. We're just going to go with that. It'd be awesome.
So anyway, getting on topic. So there we go. 10 minutes, completely blown. And I have no idea what we're doing. And this is why it's called Down the Rabbit Hole. We are very tangential. And unfortunately, we are very much cut from the same bolt of cloth. So usually you have someone will act as a foil for the other. No, we're like lobsters, lobsters in a bucket. And unlike other animals that help each other out, there's a lobster in a trap, another lobster kind of piddles by. The trapped one will grab the other one and hold them down with him. And that's us.
Because it's a party down here.
Yeah. We're party lobsters. All right. So I think the best way to do this, as we kind of discussed when we were pre-gaming, is do a old business, new business, and then shenanigans.
I like that.
So I think we should kind of touch on background a bit, who we are. So who is Derrick Utz? And why do I have to call him that?
Let's see. If any have to, I probably would be happy with going with Captain Dutz. I've had that nickname for ever and a day, and dear friends of mine have called me that for a long time. But I am. Let's see. I've got a background in illustration, and I've been a hobby illustration person for most of my life, and went to school for graphic design just because I wanted to do comics, but I was really concerned about, kind of the fickle nature of illustrating for, the print industry. And that was when I was not educated in really the potential of the field. So, I mean, that's something I would definitely like to contribute to, our conversation, as how we speak about the industry is, coming from the art side, and a lot of the background and relationships, connections and stuff that I've grown over that time. But I have been a professional designer for just shy of a decade and a half. And I'm a senior art director right now for a marketing agency. And I absolutely love it. I adore it. And so, I enjoy this kind of work. And whenever Harvey and I kind of discussed taking the project ideas that we had, because we kept talking forever and a day about different things that we wanted to make. And then we came to realize we both had the capability of doing these things. Myself from the design side, and Harvey from the writing and the content and the, ideation, kind of brilliance aspect of things. And so we thought, there's a lot of things that we could make, just between the two of us, and potentially help others do the same thing, and, come at it from a high production value angle. And so, I love being a designer. I like nerd and science fiction, high fantasy, genres and spaces and stuff. And so this was kind of, natural to fall into place here. And so now I want to hear about the Harv. Give me some of your background, bro.
Well, out of high school, in a lapse of judgment, I joined the Air Force. Did my time there. And then I got out, we'll go back to college, to go back to school. And I think I got kicked in the head by a mule or something because I re-enlisted in the Army.
Don't downplay it, man. That's a beautiful thing. You're my hero.
Did some more time. So after the military, I pretty much worked for myself for the longest time. And I remember, so if you go back far enough, the first job I ever wanted was to be the ice cream man. We're talking like, I was in kindergarten, right? But even then I had the business mindset. I knew myself well enough to know it wouldn't work because I would eat all the ice cream and I wouldn't make any money. I knew it even back then. It was a bad idea. Don't touch your own supply, right? But then you get on a little later in life, third, fourth, fifth grade, somewhere in there, and I wanted to be a cartoon. And I didn't exactly know what that meant at the time, because obviously I can't be Papa Smurf or whatever, right? But I think I wanted to do voices and stuff like that. And then I just started drawing, and I never quite stopped that altogether, but I found myself as a better storyteller than a story drawer. I was at a local comic shop in Dallas called Keith's Comics. It's a great shop. They are not sponsoring this, hashtag not sponsored. But if you're in the Dallas area, I recommend you check them out. And I was waiting for my buddy to get off work, and I'm flipping through some of the comics there, and it was one of the Amazing Spider-Man comics, and the art was by Humberto Ramos, and I've told him this story. He finds it very humorous that I blame him for my foray into comics, into seriously trying to get into comics, because I took a look. This is my first real exposure to Humberto Ramos's art, and I was like, what the crap is this? This Marvel will publish this? This is ridiculous. Why? Who likes this? This is stupid. And I'm like, I can do better than this. And I went home and immediately realized that I could not.
The error of your ways.
Yes. There goes my hubris. No, I realized that, okay, this even crap art takes a lot of years to hone. And I've since been humbled and realized that it's his art isn't crap. It just, I didn't dig it. And he had since, I mean, this was what, 2007, 2008. And he has since come a long way. He still has that very distinct art style that has never changed, but he has honed and crafted it. And I have developed as an artist, and I have grown an appreciation for his style. It's sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't for me, but he is an amazing artist. And as I developed, my first professional business card said, Harvey Moreno, great writer, horrible artist, which I feel is unfair, because it should easily say great writer, mediocre artist, or meh artist.
For sure.
Let's call a spade, right? But I do prefer to tell the stories, and so I'll draw my own stuff. And when I seriously decided to do this, and I realized that I couldn't best Mr. Senor Ramos, I was like, all right, we're going to dial it down to the beginning, and I'm going to draw some bad ass stick figures. And I had a webcomic called Ted and Zed. It's two best friends. One's a zombie. And there were stick figures that I drew on my computer, and I got better and better and better, and eventually plateaued. So my style is plateaued. Yeah. So I'm up there with like fourth graders, I think, but I enjoy it. So, I'll draw stuff if I have to, but I'd much rather work with artists. The problem is we're all flakes. Even when I wave cash under their noses, it's hard to find an artist that wants to work with you, that prioritizes the work. So when I met you and we had that click, and then we got tired of just talking about these projects. I think once I think it was once we started talking, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but we started talking about a passion project of yours was going to be related to Critical Role. And I think we talk about that. I think that's further down the line that we bring up that conversation. Yeah. But sure. It kind of mirrored an idea that I had, even if it was like a through the looking glass kind of mirror, but still, right. I think I stuck my nerdy little foot in the ground. I said, look, we got to stop dancing around this and just do this. Right. And that's how Ballastar and Greg eventually came to be, which yes. I think as much fun it is, I think you have much more fun with this than I do.
Well, it was wild because, I mean, for myself, I am such a nerd for the production process. And so, I mean, being involved, professionally in the industry of print, especially, that's where most of my design skills really have come to fruition, is it's given me a chance to exercise a lot of the things that I enjoy about balancing the creative part with the logical and organization aspect of stuff. And so, it's one of the things I appreciate about like good writing and stuff, like the way you approach projects. You have these 30,000 foot views where you look at something and then you're like, oh man, here's the overarching, connectivity between all of these things. And here's how the pieces work. And my writing, in that respect is terrible, but I can, as far as my project, approach to design, pardon me, as far as my project approach to design, it's very much like that, and I enjoy seeing structure that is still expressed creatively. And so, again, we'll talk back about the Critical Role project at a later date, but I was just so nerding out about it. And it's like, Harvey is my nerd buddy. And so, I would constantly contact him and be like, oh, I had this really cool idea for making this. And it was always a good sounding board to kind of present it to him, see what he thought of it. And with your experience, Harvey, with, within the industry, within, specifically comics, within business and so forth, I knew I had a sounding board that was honest, and you had a lot of forethought, you had a lot of insight. And so it's like, if I could sound it off of you and it didn't fall flat on its face, there was potential, and, once I kind of started exercising enough ideas and you started getting excited about them too with me, it just kind of, it naturally flowed to us coming up with something together that we could produce. And Battlestar and Greg was the first kind of, real stab at that we could just go ham on. And it was an absolute blast. I mean, we were rolling death saving throws pretty early on with that one. Yeah. It was a chance to experience success and failure. We still have a lot of things to revive with it, but had a blast producing it, working on trying to build an audience and making something that was really kind of the epitome of the kind of things that we like to do. We like high fantasy, we like D&D type content, we like ridiculous jokes, and all of those got folded into one with Battlestar and Greg, and it was a perfect start. But I think that ended up growing into what we really wanted to do with WereRabbit, which was, in addition to making comics and things, it was building tools, it was making narrative pieces, it was really creating for both the gamer and the game maker, and and then things that were inside the realm that they enjoyed, which kind of brought us to Legendary Me. And I'll pass that one to you so you can kind of talk about the birth of that idea.
Oh gosh, all right. So I don't entirely remember where the concept came from, and looking at it, that we definitely weren't the pioneers here. These things have existed, but I think the biggest problem I have with creating D&D characters is those teeny tiny boxes that you have on the character sheet. They cram so much detail into these sheets, and I'm getting old, man. I just turned 42 last month, and to quote the immortal words of the great warrior poet Indiana Jones, it ain't the years, honey, it's the mileage. And it's just, it doesn't work for me. And I know there's D&D Beyond, and I do use it. I use D&D Beyond a lot. And again, not a plug for it or anything. I mean, unless Wizards wants to drop a fat stack of cash on my doorstep or something. But they
will not resist that.
We absolutely not. Yeah. Just let me know it's coming, because we got porch pirates over here. Steal my fat sack of cash. But seriously, the D&D Beyond is great for what it is, but you're always going to have those nerds like me that like to have that tactile sensation of writing on a piece of paper with a number 2 pencil. And I mean, just watching it come to life is so much more satisfying than sitting there and annoying electrons, which has become a favorite saying of ours, I think. But again, there's just not enough. And then you've so many pieces of paper that get used or lost. I was going through storage the other day, and I found gosh, man, I've probably got like 6 players handbooks. No exaggeration, man. I own so many players handbooks. It's not even funny for 5e. But I found one, and there were character sheets in there that I haven't seen in years. And how often have I rewritten a character or lost a character sheet and had to start over? So the cool thing with Legendary Me is we can track everything. It's what, 252 pages. It's got plenty of room for backstory. It's got plenty of room for maps. Each level is its own chapter. And I love this because I can track the progress. I can see how my character is developed, and I can make notes of what worked and what didn't. and it just makes that character feel more real.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the concept. I don't remember where it came from or when it happened, but I remember the 1.21 gigawatts that ran through my central nervous system when we came up with it. And dude, it was so exciting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think we spent probably 2 months plotting on it.
I think it was about 2 months, but it was like 2 weeks of actual cramming work.
Yep. Full production. So that was, we spent 2 months probably organizing and staging the ideas, getting a rough layout. And excuse me, the beautiful thing about it is, this was a project that allowed us to actually get
such
together.
A tenderfoot move there, man.
Oh,
I say as I check to make sure my phone is on silent.
I thought I had mine on silent too. The fun thing about it is this was an opportunity for Harvey and I to really exercise our idea for, what WereRabbit could do. And that is, produce something in-house, organize it, manage it, edit it, design it, take it to production, and get it out the door between the two of us. Mm-hmm. And so Legendary Me is a character tracking guide that is designed to be a single book compendium for a single player or a single character within D&D 5e. And so that allows a space to write the backstory, track the history through the levels, draw out maps whenever you encounter them, and so forth. And our whole hope was that it would be a tool that would get taken to the table, used often. I mean, just worn out. We wanted people to become used to it and to be in love with it because it helped them. And really it represents, this first step into our first real product with WereRabbit is something that we just wanted to be a tool and help the player, because that's who we care about. We want to make things that people love to use. And sometimes that use is literally getting your pencil out and burning pages in it, man. And, sometimes the use is, it's going to be a narrative piece. It's going to be a storytelling tool. It's going to be, something that's going to guide somebody's imagination through, parts of high fantasy and science fiction or even, younger audiences and so forth. I mean, we have so many ideas in our head. And Legendary Me was this great opportunity to exercise putting those things together and saying, hey, how would this work and can we make it? And so, one of the biggest messages we wanted to really express in this first podcast episode is just thank you. As of today, we released the Legendary Me book to Amazon 2 weeks ago.
I'm going to go over here and hit refresh right quick. So we can get a total number, and that number is 41. That's not right. it adjusted to the month. Hold on a second, because it's month to date. Last 90 days, still at 75 units. And that's across all 6 colors. It currently comes in 6 colors.
Yep. So when we went through the design process, we took 2 months to ideate and work through coming up with ideas, organization of the ideas and so forth. And then we spent about 2 weeks just face planted on our free time into building the book. And it was hilarious. There were times Harvey and I were on the phone. We weren't even making no noise necessarily. We were just like, just a whole lot of doot as we were, sitting there just working, ear to ear. I'm sitting there grinding away on cover designs and making these beautiful happy accidents with the colors. And then I'm getting edits from Harvey, just making sure that the content made sense and it was proper and it was accurate and sensible, because Harvey's had years of DMing for D&D games. I'm literally just beginning that with this awesome group of coworkers that I've got who are just an absolute joy to game with. And so we come from two literal sides of, a coin on the approach of how to handle creating tools for gaming. And, since the release of the book 2 weeks ago, we've had 75 units sold. And I mean, that's a huge start for a first project, for almost no advertising, a lot of word of mouth, people finding it organically, in some cases. And it's just, I mean, for Harvey and I, it's just fuel on our fire. It's immense to see that people care about, something that we made, not because they even know who WereRabbit is yet. You will, but not
you
yet. You will. I can guarantee. But the fact that we made something that people care about, I'm so appreciative to every person, that not even just the ones that bought, but the ones that looked at it, the ones that, have given us a pat on the back and a high five and cheered us on through the whole process. It's just, please take this first episode as just an immense thank you to all of you, because, we are doing this and we're going to continue making projects because we had people that cared.
I think my favorite part is I make deliveries as part of my regular, say job is much too kind. It's an expensive hobby, really. But the best part is when I'd show up to my customers' places, and every single one of them is pretty much just a friend who buys stuff from me. But I'll show it to my friends, and while I'm sitting there talking to them about it, or I'm sitting there grabbing the comic books that they've ordered from me out of the trunk of my car, they've whipped out their phone and they're ordering copies of Legendary Me as I'm digging out their subscriptions. And it's so awesome.
It's you can't replace people being supportive to the point that they will make an order. Like they're so excited. They're flying to the source point of sale and saying, done, I'm doing it now.
Yep.
And I mean, part of what we'll do is part of these industry discussions is talk about things like, print on demand and so forth, and how Amazon doing print with them has really bridged the gap in us being able to do a low cost start, as far as, initial, ideation and testing and creating an opportunity for us as, two dads with beards to start out on creating a publishing, house, a press, and being able to go to market with something without having to have tons of initial cash and so forth, because there are tools out there that, if you can learn how to use them, and you can bridge the gap between, product, content, and production, you can get a product to market. And so that's definitely something we'll cover in later episodes for sure.
Yep. I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm super proud of the names of these colors too. We've got, we had to tool around with some of them, but you got Eldritch Purple, Frost Giant Blue, Goblin Green, Owlbear Brown, Bargest. I think it's Bargest, Barfest, Bargest Orange, and Cobalt Red. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Every one of them, you can get a sensation from that, and that's just the beginning on some of the colors and stuff that we were just going nuts on trying. It was like we had to narrow things down. It's hard to temper yourselves as creative people, especially when both of us are creative, and it's like all we're doing is just adding fuel to each other's fires. There's no.
That's part of the problem.
That's where the rabbit hole really gets deep.
Yeah, we've joked around about. I think when we have the budget, the first thing we do is we hire an assistant whose entire job is to make sure that we don't have direct contact to one another. Because I think we'll be 1,000% more efficient if we don't have to engage one another.
Which, in all reality, that 1,000% is still not a big number. It's just 1,000% more of where we are.
Yes. So yeah, we've Battlestar and Greg. I don't think we're exactly clear on what that was, but it is a webcomic, and it's what was it? The touching story of a wizard and his ooze. Yeah. The short and curly of it is you have Battlestar, who's this all powerful mage, and he was in a battle with with a party of adventurers that came through his dungeons, and they Luthered him, and maybe you've heard this term, maybe you haven't. There's this, the term to Luther a player or an NPC or monster, whatever. It's named after my buddy, Chris Luther, who is notorious as a dungeon master for bringing players to 1 hit point. Or even as a player, I believe, for bringing monsters down to 1 hit point without killing them. So to Luther something is to bring them to 1 hit point without killing him. So Balastar gets Luthered, and the party leaves as he's like bleeding out of every available orifice. And then a gelatinous cube slime ooze just goes over his body, gets that last hit point, and all the flesh dissolves from his head. And the only thing that's left is the skull of this mage that didn't quite die. And he has no control over the ooze. And so it's like this Stockholm syndrome relationship between this disembodied, well, he's kind of bodied, this undead wizard's head skull inside this ooze. And the ooze just like moves around the dungeons, and it's just shenanigans that go on through that.
Mm-hmm. I think
so
my
we
favorite way of describing, I think, was it's an organic Roomba and he's along for the ride.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, we got Balasar and Greg, and we've very healthily neglected the comic. Life just happens, between real jobs and shenanigans with my old company, and then both of us being dads with families, and there's just so much going on, and it's difficult. But we're with WereRabbit being as encouraging as it is now, and as seeing that there is a need for the things that we want to make, that's kind of redefining our priorities a bit. And I think we're definitely going to refocus our energies at the comic a little bit, and now moving on with other projects. So I think that's the old business that we got for today. Do you have anything else on that?
No, I think that covers it well, because I think a lot of those are going to bleed into kind of the new business conversation. Yeah.
So new business type stuff. We've got the, sorry, I had a mental lapse. So yeah, Legendary Me for the rest of this year we're just doing what, $9.99, $10, whatever. And then when that's for the trying to get those Christmas sales, right? But after the new year, it's going to go up to the normal $15 price. And I think that's when we're planning on releasing hardcover versions of this. We may, I think our goal for this week is to have a viable version of the hardcover, right?
Yep. I'm going to be
of the file.
Yep.
Yeah. And then
that's one of the cool things about it when it comes to the design side of it. And this is something, I mean, maybe we'll do an episode just, kind of going down the rabbit hole of design, and talking about how, if you think ahead on your file layouts and your designs, you can basically set them up for success, so that whenever you do variants, because I mean, the difference between a softcover and a hardcover on the file size and the true dimensions can be an inch difference between those. So if you don't accommodate for one, you've got to redesign, and so those kinds of things, if you think ahead, whenever you're designing your projects, or at the very least, if we look at it this way, content creators who would want to come to us, to be able to help publish for them, these are the kinds of things that we try to keep in mind is we try to dream ahead and think around the corners, because, when it comes to your projects and when it comes to our projects, we know that there's options and variations and course corrections and so forth. And right. so this hardcover, going from softcover to hardcover is just a perfect example of that. It should be relatively easy for file setup and so forth. So we'll be able to start setting files through this week, and hopefully start to get test prints and books, before the turn of the year, so that we can, check those, do press checks and quality checks, and then make sure that they hit the mark before we, make them live to the audience after the turn.
Yep. Yeah. And that's keeping in mind that I think we're going to go with the same size format for this as well. The 6x9 inch. Man, I was worried. I don't think I have one in arm's reach right now, but that I was pleasantly surprised by the quality of these things and how they felt, how thick they were. And I mean, obviously there are, I got to link up some of those pictures I put up on Imager onto our website, but they're about as thick as a 5e player's handbook. Yep. And they're what, about 70% the overall size. So 252 pages. I know when we did the mock-ups for this thing, I was thinking, man, no one's going to want to pay this price for that. Look how thin they are. But we seriously underestimated how thick a 252 page book was going to be.
Yes.
And most people see these things, they think, I paid $15 to $20 for this. And I'm like, yes, right. That means we're in the right zone. But the 6 inches by 9 inches was definitely a good size for this. I think the only real design notes I had on it after we got it back was the gutter coming out, I think 1/2 inch to 1 inch.
Yeah. We just need to pull the gutter out a little wider so that we're not, people aren't having to write content to the center of the book. But even still, with the current version, it's still totally usable. Oh yeah, it's completely viable. It's one of those things where it's part of the design and finish, portion of a project. I mean, this was one thing where I followed the specs of the printer, and we just didn't realize that by the time you reach, a certain page count, and this was getting close to the half of the page count. Yeah, you start having that fall off to the gutter, and so for that being one of the only design notes that we've gotten back on these books is a phenomenal thing. I mean, that shows how well, we really exercised and stressed the ideas and the pieces whenever we were in production. And
just a note for this, not everyone listening may be familiar with some of the terms. So the gutter is that area on the inside where the two pages come together and sink down into the spine. So what we're saying is that the elements of the page where you would typically write on, lines for character backstory and whatnot, that it sinks too far into that to where you have unusable portions of the design, portions of the lines. So what we're talking about is backing that out a bit.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's just barely there on the edge of difficult to use. Luckily, it doesn't surpass that completely unusable, but that kind of for Harvey and I, our quality desires for what we want, is it doesn't hit that as good as we want it to be.
Right. So unless you're ambidextrous, then it doesn't matter.
This is true.
Because you can go all the way in on both.
Kudos to you. You're automatically awesome in my book.
Or just that special level of crazy.
Yes, this is true. But those people would write it sideways and upside down anyways. So I'm good with that.
Yeah. So we've got plans for the hardcover version that's going to come out probably right after the first of the year. We've got fundraiser options for some of these coming up soon. And once we pull the trigger on moving it up from the $10 intro price up to the $15, we'll be able to start looking towards distribution. We can start hitting up games distributors. And I know that Amazon already has relationships with like Walmart, Target, Barnes and Noble, these companies. And so we can open up the distribution to those to where they can just organically discover it, or we can reach out to them, but they can start getting wholesale pricing on these because, they have it open to them now. If we were to click one box, the reason we haven't is because their discount supersedes our royalty margin, which basically means if we open it up to Barnes and Noble to buy at their regular discount for the price we have it set right now, we would make no money on the sale. Yeah. So right now,
potentially lose money on it. Yeah.
Well, it's not that we wouldn't owe them any money. We just we just don't get any. The minimum for production cost is sufficient for Amazon to make money, but the markup isn't high enough for us to make money.
That's right.
So we need to be aware of that when we're setting the prices, and we can see the margins as we're doing them. Mm-hmm. But when the new year comes around, we can make those adjustments. Big box companies can start buying them in bulk to put in their stores, and the margins won't be as great as, you know, John Q. Public or Jane Doe buying them off of Amazon. But, you know, like, would you rather have a big piece of a few sales, or a smaller piece where it might be a half or even a quarter of the regular royalty, but you're selling thousands of units? And right. I'm fine with smaller over a longer period.
Yep. Well, and that's the beautiful thing about it is, you know, this is giving us a much better firsthand account from the publishing side of this particular aspect of projects, because I mean, Harvey's experience from the store level of having a comic shop and things like that, you know, he's got a ton of experience about the wholesale pricing gaps, the distributions pricing gaps, the limitations, the ordering systems, you know, all these types of things on the distributor and sales side, which is a huge aspect of you know, the publication process. Then there's the production side, which is, you know, where we as a publishing company come in, you know, where we're going to be working with content creators. We're going to be working with, you know, understanding pricing, quality, specs, you know, all these types of things that have to be accommodated for, you know, in the design process. I mean, even just, you know, in Legendary Me, you know, I mean, we went with a heavier pound paper on the interior, partially because, you know, with a print on demand service like Amazon, there is limitations in just that realm. But additionally, this was something that was meant to be used and abused. It was going to be pencil marked and erased and marked up again, because this is meant to be used at a table. And so all of those things have to be considered. And so from the production side, part of the reason that we talk about things like these margins and the costs and so forth is because these all have to be kept in mind, you know, from WereRabbit original projects like Legendary Me. And then when it comes to working with clients, you know, this is part of the education process that we are learning more about as we produce our own original works for WereRabbit. And then this is part of what we educate, you know, clients on when it comes to, you know, projects and materials that we're going to make with them. And you know, that education matters. I mean, the reality of, you know, understanding the marketplace and understanding the limitations of production are part of the business, part of the industry. Yep. And you know, it, as much as people feel like having a blank open canvas is the most fun way to design, it is honestly crippling as an artist sometimes to have no limitations. And so the beauty of it is this is an industry, especially when you're producing something like this, where you do work within limitations and you get to really push the boundaries of your creativity to see what magic you make within those boundaries. And part of it is
that's also kind of why we went with the, I hate to cut you off there, but no, it's relevant. I know that we'll spiral. But the reason that we only have the handful of colors that we pick now, the reason that I don't like picking out ketchup at the supermarket, it's that paralysis that you get when you have too many options, too many choices, where you have unlimited, you know, capabilities. And so being told this is where you have to work, and I'm holding my kids' toys. This is where you have to work. These are your limitations. It can be very nurturing and very, very productive for an artist to work with them.
For sure. And I mean, part of the enjoyment of the process is figuring out how to, you know, work within the boundaries and then completely shred them, you know, and get creative. I mean, probably one of the best examples of that, you know, just in Legendary Me alone was building the map pages to drop into the gutter. So, you know, we're sitting here avoiding the gutter, and then in the map section, I'm like, nope, I'm dropping them in
all the way in.
Exactly. So now whenever you lay those sections out flat, when you flatten out the map section, you have, you know, the full width of the book, you know, a 2-page spread to be able to exercise some of the mapping, you know, instead of splitting them across 2 different pages, because we dropped them to the gutter, and those were design choices. And normally that's breaking a rule, but I wanted to be able to give, you know, even more space for players and you know, DMs to be able to say, no, I mean, my map requires more, and we wanted them to have that. And so it's looking for those opportunities to break the rules too. And, that's fun. It's part of the process, and, making sure that we understand where those rules are, so then we can then say, hey, I want to break these, gives us a chance to, create something exciting.
I think that we really quickly broke a rule, or at least broke format by going back. And that's just as much my fault as it is yours. But we're just so excited about talking about Legendary Me. But yeah, so because I think we're trying to get the new business here.
We were.
Yep. But yeah, the hardcover fundraising opportunities for the book with special, limited edition colors and stylings. We're talking about doing something for cancer, for Extra Life, and various things like that. And we can get to those as they become more relevant.
Yeah.
But the thing that I'm most excited about is the Dungeon Master book that we're still in development stage on. That's definitely going to be first quarter 2022, but that's probably going to be closer. It's probably going to be closer to March. If I'm being honest, I want it to be in February, but it's probably going to be a March book. And that's going to be something specific to the Dungeon Master. It's going to have tools for the Dungeon Master to use, a little bit of initiative type stuff, a little bit of world building, a little bit of an area for NPCs. It's going to have, this is probably going to be the most overarching product from this particular line that we're going to have, because the Dungeon Master has so much. Dungeon Master, definitely Dungeon Master.
Yes,
Dungeon Master.
It's a different dungeon.
You know what? That's a different Google search. That the Dungeon Master uses. So you want to have as many options available for them as possible. And that being said, I think we're still going to find ourselves releasing, and a lot of these are what are called the low content books, but that doesn't mean they're any less valuable or important for the end user. So I think we will have the spell books. I think we will have these are my NPC notes. This entire book is devoted to this part of the continent, and those may be lower selling items, but just having that option there. And then after the Dungeon Master book, I'm also looking forward to the class specific Legendary Me. So Legendary Rogue, Legendary Paladin, because not everyone cares about spell slots. And some people just think that spell slots are a lazy way of saying smite slots.
Smite slots.
I have a Goblin Paladin that there's smite slots, and it doesn't matter if he's got them, he will burn them. It could be a character with only 10 hit points, and he hits you for 12. He's still burning that divine smite as a bonus action on you, and so his philosophy is overkill is underrated.
Right.
And that's another WereRabbit t-shirt. Yes,
we're making note of that now.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about it is, especially when it comes to the DM book, we realistically are not trying to fight the handbook. We're not trying to fight the standard. This is a complement. And what our hope is it's going to be a tool that the DM throws in their bag on the daily, because the reality is a DM doesn't stop the creative process, and it's a craft. Running a game is a craft. You watch anybody like Critical Role and all these other shows, and you watch Matt and people and they are artists at the table, and that doesn't just happen at the table. It doesn't just happen during their scheduled prep time. This is part of who they are. And so the hope is that the DM's book will be thrown in a bag, and it's there to capture lightning in a bottle and flesh out ideas when you have extra time, and then that comes to the table with you, and it's a resource of your own creation that is logically constructed to make sense whenever you make it, or, you build it and make sense whenever you're using it at the table. And so that one, the reason it's going to have a little bit more of a production time than Legendary Me Standard is because, there's a design process that has to go into that. I mean, there's a lot of organization, a lot of proper building and structure that needs to go into that to ensure that, when it comes out, it's sound, it's usable, and it's sturdy. The structure doesn't fall apart. And so, when that does happen, my hope is that DMs and people who enjoy the process of game design will pick up that tool and just wear it out.
Yeah. The process of world building and everything, I lose sleep to this. I enjoy it so much. And while I do love writing my own stuff, I have the hardest. I hate trying to keep a notebook intact because pages inevitably get loose. My kids decide that, oh, hey, here's some paper I can draw on because I have toddlers, and just trying to keep track of all these things. And even though I run most of my games off of my computer, there's just something that I prefer about. There's this romanticism to writing on paper that just can't be substituted, can't be replaced, nothing like that. So having this book, like I've already started using my player's handbook. I don't even have a freaking character. Well, I do, but it's 3.5 character, so that doesn't count. But I've already started working on character background stuff, pictures, rolled up my first level 1 character, all on ideas for things that I want to do later. And so using the Dungeon Master's book, I would have so much more opportunity to do my world building and keeping my notes, and so much less of this to be off the seat of my pants. There's a lot of prep that goes into it, but so much of it just comes off the cuff, like on the fly. It happens when it happens. And if I'm lucky, I remember it. Luckily, I've always got at least one member in every party that loves to take notes. Right. So when I brought some copies of Legendary Me to my game last Thursday, I sold 3 copies right there. I wasn't even trying to sell them. I was like, "Hey guys, check it out! I made a thing." And they're like, "Can I buy that?" I'm like,
"Can I have the thing?"
Sure. Yeah. Okay. And one of them just immediately starts transcribing notes from the last.
Nice.
It was great.
Yeah.
I was going somewhere with that, but that's that. So yeah. And then we've got the class specific stuff, and that's going to be fun. Yeah. There's
going to be, really fun opportunities for us to dig into the design side.
Yeah.
Because the Legendary, there's a pattern to the Legendary series. And so when we start, creating the variants for it, that's where Harvey and I are going to really have a chance to just go ham on the design, make some gorgeous things, because we've already done the hard work of the structure. And now we'll be able to take those structures and give them a new face. And I mean, for creative people, man, there's almost no more fun you can have with a project like that, and it is creating a different way of looking at the world, through that piece. Because the reality is, the hope with the Legendary series is, this is something that stays with you for a couple of years. I mean, growing a character, through that many levels and through a campaign and the ups and downs. And the sad part of not filling that book out because, you didn't last the campaign. With that person,
think about it. When was the last time you had a character that made it to level 20? Exactly. I've been playing 5e since 2015. I've got one character.
Exactly.
One. The closest from that is 17, and the closest to that is, I don't know, 12, 13, somewhere in that.
Right. And so, we will celebrate with you guys the chapters that are full and the chapters that are empty. And
I don't know what's more heartbreaking, the character that dies before hitting level 20, or the character that has to be retired because you filled that book and there's nothing left to do. That's why. So I've got plans for epic level. I know there's stuff like that on DM's Guild or Drive Through RPG or whatever. But it's a little dated, some of this stuff. And some of it is better than I came up with, and some of it is like I can improve upon this, and others like, ooh, what were you thinking? But there's, with every source book, there are new subclasses and new races and things that you can expand upon to constantly evolve those epic level things. And so that's another project that's way down the line.
Right.
But I think the next thing that we've got, that's probably Q2 that we're going to try to do. Into Q1, so. We've got a named but unrevealed project that it was another one of those that just light bulb kind of moments. I swear these things, I couldn't get more creative if I danced in the rain with an umbrella on the Thunder Downs or something. It's I could be out on top of a roof with a lightning rod, and I wouldn't get more inspired. But it's those holy crap ideas that really get us going. And this one, the more we talked about it, the more excited you got about this. And it spawned from another idea that was just about me trying to think of some voice acting stuff. And it circled the drain until it got to what we have. And I know you were really excited about this. So if we do this properly, we probably got, if we were to drop a campaign book or a resource book or whatever, if we were to do it once a quarter, we've probably got 2 to 3 years worth of material out of this one idea.
Yep. And it's something that I really feel like one of the things I look forward to with the things that we can create, especially the WereRabbit original tribes projects, is where, holistically we approach, being creative people, being gamers, being people who just live life and enjoy these genres. So we're not just gamers. We're not just, content creators. We're not just, consumers. And so, if we can find projects every now and then that put all those things together and let you be entertained while also, learning different ways to look at a game and then fueling your own game, and if we can combine those things in any way, shape or form, pieces at a time, all that's doing is just, creating something, magical. And, this project, I think sparks a lot of that. And so it gives us a chance to exercise, all of those things. I have to stop there because we will spill beans. We cannot spill beans. But there's stuff like that. There's stuff like, as far as, future new business type ideas, we have things that we want to create for, the younger audiences, the younger fans and geeks.
Baby carrots.
Baby carrots. Yep.
We've got about half a dozen sub imprints.
Yep. And so, one of the big ones is our youth arm that we want to create a young readers audience type of stuff. Cause we both have kids and I love creating content that the kids can enjoy. I like family friendly type of content, and Baby Carrots was born from the idea of creating something from WereRabbit that is strictly this imprint or this arm of the publishing company is young audience and children centric. And it's just a fun way for them to enjoy high fantasy and mythological and science fiction and so forth. I've got one book that I started a long time ago that I'd like to bring in as being one of the first, the Baby Carrot entities. And then we had another one that's the problem is whenever Harvey and I, get together, it really is a drop down the rabbit hole because we keep coming up with new ideas. And we slap them into our notebook, and then it's like we have to throw them on the warboard and look what can happen next.
It is a total triage board. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Which one of these is going to kill us first if we don't do it?
Right. And as long as we've got Revivify, we're fine. So,
I'm a Phoenix Down guy myself. Little fun fantasy nod.
Dude, I'm going to always keep some diamonds with me. That and a jester. So yeah, I mean, as far as, new business types of stuff, this is probably one of the biggest conversations we'll have on new business because we're so excited about some of these. But, as we go into production on them and we start to kind of temper these ideas, there will be things that will fall off. It's just part of the reality of content creation. Other things may get hammered into, one project into another type of thing. And that's exciting. It's getting a chance to make something or create something in your mind and watch it grow and see what lasts as it's called in Pixar and other places, they have an ugly baby face and there's times whenever new projects are just not pretty and they have to have an opportunity to grow. And, if they can grow and they can survive the trials and tribulations of production and schedule and successful, time investment, then, they can become something amazing. And so, for Harvey and I, we look forward to those kinds of things. The beauty of stuff like Legendary series is it's for us something that we can spend time on, create it, and then we can share it and let it grow and get a chance to connect to the audience while we are still working on other projects at the same time. And that's one of the cool things about like publication in general is it's, these are things that are created and sent out into the world, and then you can go to create more and still have a chance to connect to people with what you've already made. And I knew that existed, but I never knew how fun that was. And we've gotten to experience that a lot over the last 2 weeks, just with the release.
So relatively speaking, how easy it was. The entry threshold is so much more accessible than I thought it would be. And that's one of the beauties of doing the print on demand with the Legendary series, that we're able to front load everything, get it set, tweak it, put it on there. And if we get any feedback, we can do a second edition to change it if that needs to happen. But the magic of having this already out there, we don't have to worry about pretty much anything other than just getting it in front of the eyes of other people, that we have another company that handles all that being Amazon. And with Prime, you get it in 2 days.
Yeah. That wasn't even something I was ready for. I had no idea was I part of that.
I thought it was still going to, because the author copies take a few weeks to get to us.
Yep.
And I thought that was going to be the case with everything. And nope, Prime, get it in 2 days. So that's another thing that's great about it is while English, I swear I speak it. Calm down, Mr. L. Jackson. But while the royalties on these things are on the smaller side, it does have a trickle-in effect that will allow us to funnel is probably not a term my accountant would like me to use, but it allows us to use the funds coming in from these to fund the bigger projects. Things like we've got something armory, something. Yep. There's a project, and this is how we knew we were on the right track. I used to own a comic book store, and 2.5 years ago, a gentleman came in and talked to me about D&D and stuff in general. And I said, "Oh yeah, I'd like to one day publish my own content." Get and that was that. And I believe I spoke to this man once and never saw him again. I mean, my memory sucks, but that's my recollection. And then 2 years later, we had just gotten our LLC paperwork in the mail or in the email from our accountant.
Yep.
And that day, I get a text message from a young man who said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember, but you spoke to my dad 2 years ago about getting into publishing, and I want to know if you're still doing that." And it was just that reinforcement of I barely recall talking to a guy 2 years earlier about wanting to do a thing. And then here we are the day that we're getting ready to do things, the day we become legit. And it comes back and says, "I want to do this thing that you wanted to do." And it's like, "Oh, dude, we're doing something that we need to be doing." And he's off at college. He's becoming bigger and better. So he, studies and all that, he can't devote the time that he wants to a project. So it's a long-term back burner project. He keeps the stuff, we kick it back. It's just a back and forth relationship type thing. But things like Legendary Me, like the Dungeon Master book, like the other projects that we're going to have next year, those are the things that are going to allow us to front load the cost of things like this, so we can have a bigger and better outreach, that we can produce a much more appealing product for the nerds that love this sort of thing.
Right. Well, and the beautiful thing about it too is we create enough of these types of projects that are essentially self-funding, which, allows us to be, a lean startup production company, a lean publication company. And in doing
because you got a job. I got a job. I mean, yours is better than mine, but we have jobs, we have families.
Yeah,
this
blessed,
is the side hustle.
Right. Exactly. And so, when these things are able to fund themselves, and they're able to build, the name of the company in the eyes of the audience as something, our goal is to make something that you all, the audience, the nerds of the world enjoy. And, the more product we can get out there sustainably, self-sufficient, intelligently, as smart business people, and it gets it into your eyes and your hands, and you get to enjoy it, that creates opportunity for us to then properly reach out and create something big and beautiful. And we're doing it smart. We're doing it, the way it should be, not with risk reduction and mitigation. And, some of these things may turn into, Kickstarter projects where, they may not necessarily self-fund, the traditional way, at least, our current way of doing things, which is like a, print on demand KDP type system. And instead we'll be able to create projects by doing, crowdfunding and, in doing so, create even like variety of things, variants of the project that are going to be stunning, that we wouldn't be able to do without, having that kind of that larger reach that's allowed by crowdfunding and so forth. So it's like, we've got ideas for all these as far as still inside this new business conversation. There's all of this amazing stuff that's out there that's accessible, for content creators, for producers, for production companies and publishers and stuff. People like ourselves that are like, hey, if you have the talent to bridge the gap, and then you have the ability to show content creators and teach others to do the same, then there is a world of tools and a world of access out there.
And that's the key word that you just used right there is bridge. And that's the important thing. We're going through this process. We're learning, we're making the mistakes so that we can put ourselves in position to help bridge the creators and their vision to the players and the dungeon masters and the people who want the stuff.
Right. And I mean, Harvey and I, we wanted to do this. We wanted to create WereRabbit because we both have enough experience that we've been blessed to have been, able to experience enough things that steps us up, past a lot of other, content creators that don't have the production knowledge, don't have the design skills, don't have the experience, with content creation and gaming and DMing for years, or, the business acumen, like yourself, Harvey, where, you've ran businesses and stuff before. And so,
sometimes into the ground.
Hey, but you know what? A direction, even negative, is still a direction. And so, both directions we learn from, and a lot of people haven't faced what we have. I mean, between my professional experience, your professional experience, and then our nerd experience, it's like I feel like we can stand, like you're saying, on that bridge in between, fans who want to create things or people who really have great ideas and are organized, and we can work with them, and then the finishing products of production and print and going to market and communicating with audiences and so forth. I feel like we're going to try to build something amazing in between those two things. That's our goal is to help. And if nothing else, all of the new business conversation really funnels into that. We want to help create even more amazing stuff for, fans just like ourselves.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think we've definitely gone over that 25 minute sweet spot mark.
I think this could easily be the perfect definition of going down the rabbit's hole.
Yeah. But it's also our first one, so we need to figure out format and let people know who we are, where we're from, and where we're from is Fort Worth, Texas. Right. That's where we are from. I'm originally from California. This guy's from other mythical lands.
Yep. I rode in on the Griffin. Yep.
But you can find us online at WereRabbitPress.com. And I think it's WereRabbit Press is everywhere. We're able to secure that everywhere.
Yep.
Facebook.com/WereRabbit Press, WereRabbit Press on Twitter, Instagram. We're not thoroughly active on that because we're still trying to figure out. We don't know how to use the media social ice cream sundae things yet. No, we're just trying to figure out how we want to use it all. But we are responsive to these things. If you tweet at us, we will reply.
One of the most important or entertaining parts of that is we will contact you all as wherever we can, and if you all want a good laugh, try to tweet at me because I do not know how to keep anything under 140 characters. And so you will see me using the most pirate shorthand, phonetic sounding shortened words to get more than 140 characters of conversation out of it. Or I'm going to have 17 threads.
And if you want to be thoroughly ignored by him, reach out to him on Facebook.
There you go. Yeah, sure. I do not book faces.
No, if you're talking to someone on Facebook, if you're talking to us on Facebook, you're probably talking to me.
There you go.
And Twitter is a crapshoot for us.
Yep.
But I enjoyed this. This went on longer than we had thought it would, but there's a reason why it's called Down the Rabbit Hole. So once again, I'm Harvey.
And I am Derrick. Out. Goodness gracious.